In the interests of not having to put this finder down on a surface somewhere and potentially contaminating that nice clean plastic component that I've got all ready to go, I fitted the frame into an old camera body. This is just a convenience for me. I know not everyone's going to have an old camera body available that they can use for purposes like that, but I do, so I'm using it. Okay, so I've got my plastic lens here, the plastic component. Now you'll be able to see tiny marks on here where the screws bit into it for alignment purposes. And it goes prism side up. In other words, the side at the bottom is dead flat, the prism is upwards. And now it's just sitting loosely in there at the moment. And it's rattling around between those alignment screws. So that's that little piece out of the way. Might run two of the screws in lightly just to keep that in place. While I clean the ground glass screen. The ground glass screen I'm going to clean with some glass cleaner. This is the ground glass side I'm cleaning at the moment. This is the side that had the little mildew specks on it. They'll clean straight off. The other side is normal shiny glass. And here I'm just using normal domestic glass cleaner, nothing magic. This will certainly remove any mildew spots. That's quite a bit of dirt coming off on that cotton bud actually, that's quite interesting. It's easy to see if there are any smears on the shiny side of the glass, of course. It's not so easy to tell if there's a problem with the ground glass side. Let me have a look at it. That looks pretty good. Now to put it in here. This goes ground glass side down. And there are effectively bent-in tabs in the finder which hold that glass firmly in position. Now I've got to be sure that I've got no dust particles trapped between those layers, so I'm going to hold this up to the light. And I'm looking to see if there's any obvious problem. It looks very good. Of course, that's no guarantee of success, unfortunately, as I know from past experience. We have this frame that goes in on top there. And again, I'll look to see if I can see any speck of dust or anything that's fallen in there. It all looks good. The glass component that goes in next is the flat on one side, convex on the other. Flat side goes down in the finder, and this I'm going to clean carefully and I'm going to use a soft cotton cloth with glass cleaner to clean that. Right, to continue with this viewfinder reassembly. Yeah, I'm just holding that mask down while I blow this lightly to remove any dust particles. The next component to go in is the condenser lens, flat on one face, convex on the other. Flat face down, it goes in here. And now I've got to check it again to make sure I haven't included any dust particles. So I'm just holding a piece of paper under here to get the maximum amount of light through that screen. I can see a dust particle there. It was sitting on the top of that glass and it's gone now. Next component is the frame. This spacer here that holds the two condenser lenses apart. Now, this is not symmetrical. One side's got a higher step on the ends than the other. The high step should be up. I think. Hang on, let me check. Let's check that against my other condenser. Now the high step should be down. Busy telling you lies. Let's get this in place. Again, I'm being careful to see that no dust particles have found their way in. And now this condenser lens has to go in, but getting this in is always tricky because you've got to get it in on the top of that frame. There it is. Now there's a dust particle there. I'm trying to see which surface it's on. Okay, that looks pretty good. That appears to be fine. And these clips hold this down in place. Put these in one at a time. Okay. I can see something on my focus screen here. I'm just trying to see which surface that's on and trying to work out what it is. I have my Prism here and there's only two surfaces that need to be cleaned on here, the main surface at the base and the eyepiece at the back. Now the eyepiece, where the eye at the back here, there's some tape residue on there and I want to remove that. I'm not going to attempt to remove any other tape residue from the Prism because I'll only end up removing the paint and possibly the silver if I was to try and do that. But I just want this off so that I can make sure I get this surface, glass surface clean. If I don't remove all the sticky tape residue, I'll never get this glass surface clean. So I'm using acetone to do this. And now I'll use glass cleaner. There's still some marks on there. They're like, it's like coating. The glass has probably reacted to the atmosphere in some fashion, so it's like it's partially coated. I'm not sure that these prisms were ever coated. That's fine. I just need that to be completely free from any smears, anything that detracts from the look of it. And this surface is much cleaner. As before, I'm making sure that there are no little rainbow smears on there. No, that looks fine now. Okay, so the prism can be married to the rest of the finder assembly. Last puff of the air to make sure there's no dust particles settled in there. Set the prism in the tray. I'll look through the prism, see if I can see any dust particles at this stage. No, it looks good. So now I need to put the tape around there to keep the dust out from the top. Okay, I've pre-cut some strips of tape. And now I'll try and get them all in place. I'll cut it at the front edge so it'll lie down flat. And I'll do the other side. So just a short piece I want here. Meter needle and so forth runs through the piece at that point. I'll have to uncover those screw heads shortly so I can remove this from the body here that I'm using as a suitable jig. Trim that excess off. This is some duct tape that I'm using. It's a cloth reinforced or a fibre reinforced tape. It doesn't stretch to any degree, which is important because it'll mean it'll probably stay in place. If you try and use electrical tape, you'll inevitably find that it wants to change shape as it over time, and it won't stay where you put it. Now I'm sorry you can't see this part, but I'm just getting that front piece in. Again, I'm just cutting down along the edges there so that tape will fold down flat. Okay, that's looking pretty tidy. Get this excess off here. Now the two screws I've got holding this down, I want to remove them now so that I can get the clamp plate down over the top of this. So I'll just peel that tape back over that screw head. And the same on the other side. Okay, at the moment my Prism is just sitting here, the whole assembly, there's nothing holding it down. Here's our clamp plate. Get that in position. Poking a hole through the tape, I'll feed the screw back through it. Tighten that down. It's not running into the body. That Prism must have moved over a bit. There it is. That's where it wanted to be. Same on the opposite side. Okay, so that's all clamped down firmly and sealed with tape on three sides. There's two small screws that hold the finder assembly itself together. I can put those two screws in. That screw just goes into the plastic section underneath the Prism assembly here, underneath the finder assembly. But it holds this piece together. Right, okay, so I'm pleased with that. I want to put a strip of tape across here. Needs to be quite narrow at this end but I can cut that out later. I think I've got a piece of tape cut to go. Sorry about that. I'm not getting it. I need to come up a bit from there. Okay, that's more like it. I'll trim the back edge of that once I've taken this back off the camera, because then I'll be able to get in with the scissors and snip that. I'll do that now. I'll remove the two large screws which are holding the finder assembly to this casting. The two small screws I put in, of course, will hold the finder assembly together. Now I need to remove this excess tape here. This stuff, the adhesive is very tenacious. It sticks to my scissors very well indeed. Alright, that looks pretty tidy. I'll pop that back in there. I want to put my mask on the back of the finder. I'll put a screw in here just to hold this back on the casting so that I can get this in without a fight. That's better. Okay. Here's the mask. You can't see, there's the mask, and we have another long screw that goes through that and a small screw that holds the mask to the frame itself. So I'm just going to punch the holes through the tape. You look at that window, that appears fine. A bit of my tape residue here is too high, it appears in the finder view. I've got to clean that away. Let's see what I can do. I'll use the acetone. It's okay. If you've come to the realisation that reassembling the finder assembly is a bother and a nuisance, you're quite correct. It's a tedious task. And the small screw that holds that assembly together. Let's find a better screwdriver. It's not finding the hole. There it is. Okay. I can back out the larger screws. Check the. I've got to put the tape on the bottom parts of the finder assembly and make the adjustments to the clear window at the bottom to make sure that the prism and the hole in the ground glass are lined up. Right, so some more tape. Now there's a distinct possibility that when I get to the end of this process, I'll discover some offensive fleck of dust, and I'll have to pull this all back down to see the back of it. That, unfortunately, is normal. If I'm very lucky, I'll get this on the first attempt. Bits of tape stuck to all sorts here at the moment. One more piece. These scissors are too fouled up with adhesive at the moment. I'm going to have to clean those before I can do anything. There's my acetone. Clean those scissors. I don't think you missed much there. I think I just hit a file size limit. I've got all my tape and so forth and everywhere it should be. Now I need to make my adjustments for those little screws. I'm looking at the prism and it's far too close to this end. So the screw at this end, I need to run that in to move the glass screen further along, and prism with it of course. Get that centered in the window. That's pretty good end to end. Now I need to move the prism to this direction. So these two screws need to be adjusted in. That's getting better. That looks fine. I'll just run the opposite screws in to make sure there's no slack there. That appears fine, and that the screws at the end, neither of those are loose. Okay, that should be good to go into the camera. There's a piece of foam rubber that goes in here, a bit of plastic, artificial rubber. I'll just put a piece in there to fill that space up. Well, I just spent 2 minutes installing that prism assembly in the body, and I must have failed to press the record button. That's life as we know it. You didn't miss much. There were only 3 screws involved in putting it in. The prism's in. Now I need to check that the focus on the focus screen matches the focus at the film plane. I already know that the focus is correct at the film plane because I've already checked that previously. I need to confirm that the focus on the screen matches. In other words, that when I look at a target at infinity, that appears to be correct in the finder when the lens is set to infinity. Back shortly.